We can't let the guilt get in our heads about being a safety net just because we own an apartment community. Welcome to the Heartland Multifamily Show, the shorter, more profitable path to multifamily ownership and investing. Everybody, it's Darin and Isaiah. Hi, Isaiah.
Hello, Darin.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
We're already off to having fun on this episode of the coffee drinking, give it some right there, Heartland Multifamily Show, the place
For all things multifamily.
for all things multifamily. Look, we're excited to go over something in this podcast that you don't really see out there very often, and it's a manifesto. It's actually our multifamily manifesto.
Should we get into it?
You want to get into it?
I want to do it. Let's go.
All right. I know our viewers and listeners are probably dying to go into it. So before we do, I want to go over just a couple ground rules real quick. There's 21 manifestos. Okay, that's number one. Number two, most all of them apply to business and life in general. There's a lot of application to that too. As that is our foundation, Isaiah, let's jump into it. Let's do it.
Festo number 1. Once the deal closes, the work is not done. Years of work is just starting.
I can't tell you how many times I've run into, had conversations with, and seen investors, business owners that once they buy that property, once they close on it, they think the work is pretty much done. Now things are going to pretty much run on autopilot. I used to be in that group. I remember the first property that we purchased, actually a 100+ unit property. And look, there's a lot of work that goes on, raising money, you're doing all of the due diligence. I mean, there's a shit ton of work. But where a lot of people go off the rails is they pretty much think, oh, well, okay, we're kind of done now. Now we're going to just turn it over to a management team, let them deal with it. We've already got things up and going. No. Your work is just starting once you take over.
So for you as a property management owner, how long did it take you to realize that the celebrating doesn't happen right away and the work is just starting? So for example, Iowa City property, we buy it, we go in, it takes months of time, months of work to finally get it going the way you want it to be. Yeah. How many years did it take for you from when you started doing all of this to realize, wow, this is just the beginning? Closing was probably the easiest part of it.
It didn't take long at all. It took less than a month to figure it out. And the thing is, you get so consumed with all of the box checking you've got to do from A to Z to make sure you're doing everything right, all of your due diligence, you're doing everything to make sure to purchase the property the right way, and it's going to be a great deal. Well, there's so much focus on that box checking, you're not thinking, well, shit, what are we going to do after we take over? I mean, you got to plan it. You got to plan it. So here's what we're going to do. Here's our process. Here's our business plan. Sure. But since that's not right in front of you, you're not working on that. And once you close and you take over, all of a sudden, boom, it hits you in the face. It's almost like you get punched in the face with that business plan of, oh shit, we got a lot of work to do here. That's when I realized it was pretty much right away. Less than a month, man. I want to make sure everybody understands I have that as number one because of how important it is to realize that and how important management is to the overall success of the apartment community and the apartment investment. All right, so what do you got for number 2?
Festo 2. Landlords should make as much money and build as much wealth as they want.
I've got that number 2 because society as a whole, especially the more liberal sides of society, and this isn't a political comment, it's a fact, want you to feel guilty about achieving as much of the American dream as you possibly can. Especially when you're a landlord, there's a lot of guilt thrown at you, and I call it either the investor owner or the social work owner. The investor owner is the owner that's going to morally, legally, and ethically work as hard as they can to have that apartment property be as profitable for them and or their partners as possible. The social work owner is more interested in pleasing the tenants, pleasing the media, and pleasing other agendas in terms of things like free rent or discounts on rent, not getting rent up to market levels. Those are some obvious examples. There's some other ones. And by the way, there's no wrong answer with any of this. You can operate your multifamily property however you want. If that's how you want to operate it, God bless you, good for you. I don't have a problem with that. But the problem I do have is the continual full court press of many in society to hold and keep the landlord down at a critical criticism level where you shouldn't be making that much money. You shouldn't be putting your rents at that level. And that gets in people's heads. That gets in a lot of landlords' heads. And so ultimately, many landlords do not operate the properties as efficiently, as effectively as they can because this kind of stuff is getting in their head. But if the goal is to have a successful apartment property that's going to do as good for you, maybe your family, maybe it's generational kind of thing, you've got to get all of that guilt out of your head and work hard on your American dream, which is to do as good as you can morally, legally, and ethically, in this case, by owning an apartment community.
Festo 2, focus on the American dream.
Focus on the American dream. So what do we got for number 3?
Number 3, landlords are business owners, not a safety net. Landlords are not social workers.
We just covered that, but I have that as number 3 just to take a step deeper. A lot of people think that landlords should be a safety net. You saw this when COVID was going on. So when COVID was going on, there was this big cry of, you can't evict people. You should allow people to live in their apartments, not pay anything. You should allow this to happen. I want to emphasize, there's no wrong answer. Anyone can operate and manage their properties any way that they want to. Where I have an issue, when people that have no experience, not even any practical experience in owning multifamily properties, tell me what I have to do just because I own an apartment property. Now I should allow, for example, homeless people to live in my property. I should allow people that have criminal records to live in my property. I should allow people that have a long historical track record of not paying their bills. I should allow them to be in my apartment property. Why? Because I own the apartment property. And if you use that logic, then my response is, well, why don't you have any of these people that you are on the moral high ground about live with you?
They never will.
People won't do that. But they'll tell me to do that just because why? Because I own an apartment property. That's just like saying, Isaiah, to you, it'd be just like saying this. You know that McDonald's you own? There's a lot of people going hungry right now. I think for the next week, you should just give your food away for free. How ridiculous does that sound?
Very ridiculous.
Pretty ridiculous. Now, again, if you're the owner of the McDonald's and you want to do that, and that's awesome, terrific. But to think that you should, because you, just by virtue of you owning a food source, should provide free food to people is the same thing as saying to me, just because I own a source of housing, I should provide that for free. So again, it's about that guilt. We can't let the guilt get in our heads about being a safety net just because we own an apartment community. Hey guys, a lot of people contact me and want to know, where are the best resources when it comes to investing in multifamily? Where can I go? And the obvious answer is DarinGarmin.com. 99.9% of all of the items on the website are absolutely free. Start making that multifamily investment that you've been thinking about a great reality.
All right, so that was number 3. So let's go into number 4. Festo 4. The way to make a lasting impact in life is to provide housing.
Yeah. I mean, you want to make an impact on people's lives in a positive way. It's to provide housing. And I know that's what you just said, but there's 2 ways that I look at that. Number 1 is, of course, through ownership. And it could be an opportunity for someone that owns just a single family home, and maybe they rent that out and they rent that over years and get it paid off. And all of a sudden now they've got a great a really terrific asset that maybe they want to pass on to their kids, grandkids. So it can be single family home all the way up to someone that owns 10,000 or more units. So there's that opportunity to provide an impact for people. And then, of course, the obvious thing is to provide housing for people that are looking for housing and need housing, and build those kinds of connections and relationships with tenants. There's nothing more satisfying than for a tenant to come up to me and they say something like, "Thank you so much for what you do and helping me out and providing us such a great apartment." Those are the kind of stories I want to hear every day.
So that was Festo 4. You got anything else for Festo 4?
No, let's go into Festo number 5.
Festo 5. Never be afraid to overpay for a property that your instincts say, hell yes.
Yeah, this is one that we might get a little blowback and pushback on, by the way. And Isaiah, what do 99.99% of people focus on when it comes to purchasing, not only a multifamily property, but real estate in general? What are they focused on paying?
Price.
Yeah, but what do they want to pay the most or the least?
Oh, the least.
The least, right?
Least possible.
And don't get me wrong, of course, we want to pay the least we can pay anytime we make an investment. But there are always times when it makes sense to overpay. I'll give you a couple of examples from what we do. If there is an apartment community that is right next door, right next to one that we already own,
you got to buy it.
We've already got all of our management systems and processes in place right there, and one's right across the street. I'm going to pay pretty much whatever we need to pay for it because I'm already going to save millions of dollars in operating costs because I already got my systems and processes in place. I'm more than happy to overpay for it because of that and because I always think long term. That's number one. Number two example, you'd be surprised how many owners don't unlock the real value of their properties, put them up for sale at a price that is really at the end of the day a discount. And the owner wants X, I'll pay X, and I might even pay a little bit more because I know what I know about how we can own and operate the property. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, is you do this enough, it's like instinctual and you just know. And so the last 3 to 4 properties that we've purchased, did I spend a lot of time looking at spreadsheets and analyzing numbers and rates of return and everything else? Did I do that? No, I didn't. It's because I know in my gut whether it's a good deal just by looking at the damn thing. I can look at it. I can look at 3 or 4 pieces of key information and I already know. And the really good guys in this business, they're the same. They can look at a property. They don't need to go through 3 weeks of analysis to know I'm buying it. And you want a little bit more? Okay, fine. I'm going to buy it. They just know. Too many people go the opposite way and they get too wrapped up in. So for example, you were telling me about a guy that you were having this conversation with. He was looking at buying a 12-unit building, right? And he kept on asking, well, the debt service, is it going to do this? And is it going to do that? Is it going to behave like this when I buy it? Is it going to behave like that when I buy it? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? Okay. We're not saying that you don't ask questions. Sure. But you're way too far on that end of things in paralysis by analysis, and you don't ever end up doing anything because you're a professional analyst, okay? You're not buying anything. You never want to overthink things because at the end of the day, you just know. Once you know, you're going to be prepared to pay pretty much what it takes in order to own it for all of the reasons that I just mentioned.
All 5 reasons. All 5 Festos.
Yeah. And again, we've covered 5 already. Mm-hmm. All right. So here's kind of what I'm thinking. Let's go ahead and let's do one more.
One more?
Let's do one more. Let's have this be a 6 manifesto episode. And then we'll go ahead and we'll take some of these other manifestos into some future episodes. What do you got for number 6?
Festo number 6. Multifamily energy is everything.
And what does it say underneath that? Go ahead and say that.
The energy you show up with every day is a precursor to the quality of life you will live and the multifamily empire you will build. You're a big energy guy.
I'm a huge energy guy. And what you just covered there in terms of energy is everything pretty much is applicable. Like I said, when we started this episode, I said, a lot of this is going to apply to like everything. And so this is one of those manifestos that apply to everything. How many days have you seen me show up with shitty energy? Ever?
Very, very, very rare.
You can maybe pick out at least maybe 1 or 2 days, right?
Very, very rare.
But that's it.
Yeah.
But that's it. And what you learn, especially when you are, I'll just say on your own, everything feeds off of you in terms of not only how you will be treated, but also the direction that you're going to go and that other people will go. Okay. In a way, it's kind of like this. If you want things to go a certain direction with a deal you're working on, with your business, with your relationship, we all have directions that we want a lot of things in our life to go. You want to have a 90% probability that it will eventually go in the direction that you want it. Show up with the kind of energy that expects it to go in that direction. Once you figure out that the energy that you show up with every day, with the people around you, with the business that you're involved in, and especially with the direction you want things to go, and you understand that that needs to become a part of you, it makes things so much easier, and you have so much less frustration. Now hold on. I didn't say the frustration disappears.
You said no frustration?
No, I didn't say that. But that's key. So how many did we cover?
5 plus a bonus.
We had a 5 plus bonus, so we covered 6 manifestos. And I'm really looking forward to diving into the others. And so here's what I would tell you if you've stayed with us through this episode, this beginning of the Multifamily Manifesto episode of the Heartland Multifamily Show. If you like, or if any of these manifestos resonated with you, 1 through 6, you're going to want to stick around for the next episode where we cover the next 5 or 6. Because if you thought these were pretty good, wait until we get into the others. You're going to think those are really, really good too. So Isaiah, thanks for joining me and going through those beginning parts of the manifestos that we've covered. You got anything else you want to talk about or mention on this episode regarding any of the manifestos or any takeaways that you've got on any of those?
No. I think my favorite one was the last one we went over.
Energy?
Energy is everything.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Heartland Multifamily Show, the place
For all things multifamily.
for all things multifamily. We'll see you. Take care. Bye-bye. If you want to get your hands on more great multifamily real estate content, make sure you click here. If you want to invest passively in great multifamily real estate, make sure you click here.